killing babies. I love it.
Jesus will. We have to give her the word.
I've had like 45 abortions and I'm going to keep having them.
We are God. We are God.
A me è capitato con 2 persone di vedere sputare oggetti. Gli oggetti si materializzano nell'istante in cui escono dalla bocca. Dei chiodi anche lunghi così. Dei chiodi, tanti chiodi. E se uno avesse fatto i raggi non avrebbe trovato niente. Si materializzano negli istanti in cui escono dalla bocca.
Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name.
Hi, thanks for tuning in to Armor of God, and as always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us, and hopefully all of you will learn a lot from this video. Anyway, due to many of you requesting this in the comments before, I'm going to kick this off with a prayer, and for this one, I'd like to share this one from Father Joseph Iannuzzi.
Ave Maria, piena di grazia, il Signore è con te. Tu sei benedetta fra le donne e benedetto è il frutto del tuo seno, Gesù. Santa Maria, Madre di Dio, prega per noi peccatori, adesso e nell'ora della nostra morte. Amen.
Anyway, we shared this short clip on our other channel just the other day, but it is still worth repeating here again, and that is to pray for our priests. Take a look at one of the exorcists in Italy after a long day and just after a deliverance session.
11:15, Madonna, stiamo stanchissimi.
Listen to this part again. In this video we've released before, some of you requested that I share another exorcism or deliverance session again, so I thought I'll share this one.
Scendi Spirito Santo, benedetto il seno di tua madre, benedetto il latte che ti ha nutrito, benedetto quando ti ha portato al fondo battesimale. Io ti segno con 3 segni di croce, uno dentro al cervello, questo cervello sia sempre libero, uno sulla bocca per proclamare la parola di Dio, un altro nel tuo cuore.
Il demonio è stupido.
Il demonio è stupido.
Il demonio è stupido.
Alla famiglia.
Il demonio è stupido.
Il demonio è stupido.
Asmodeo è stupido.
Asmodeo è stupido.
Asmodeo, il demonio del sesso. Asmodeo, il demonio del sesso.
Asmodeo, il demonio del sesso.
Vattene via.
Vattene via.
Vattene via dal mio cervello.
Vattene via dal mio cervello.
Scendi nel nome del Padre, del Figlio e dello Spirito Santo. Amen. Chiusa questa benedizione.
I'm sure a lot of you have heard Father Vincent Lampert saying this before, that the number of exorcists are too few while the cases are just piling up, leaving the exorcists that are available to deal with those cases pretty much exhausted and unable to serve everyone as quickly as they can. And Father Reehil also pretty much saying the same thing as well. So just because we've covered exorcists a lot in this video, I thought it's good to include this one from the late Father Gabriel Amorth as well.
Gli esorcisti non vanno mai in pensione. Ecco, uno ha l'idea delle mie giornate, anche i sabati, le domeniche, anche il giorno di Natale e di Pasqua faccio esorcismi. In genere credono all'esistenza del demonio, ma non credono ai mali malefici. Non ci credono, non li hanno mai studiati, non li hanno mai visti, non li hanno mai praticati, quindi non ci credono. Se però il vescovo propone a loro di fare l'esorcista, pensano: se io il demonio lo lascio stare, lui mi lascia stare, se io lo stuzzico, lui mi viene addosso, mi dà dei disturbi. Quindi no, di queste cose non ne voglio sapere.
And speaking of Father Vincent Lampert, whom I love listening to very much, he also mentioned in one of his interviews before how the devil is trying to bring us down to the levels of animals. But anyway, listen to one of the devil worshippers in recent history, and I think after listening to this clip, you'll understand much better what Father Lampert said before.
In your book, The Satanic Bible, you say, hate your enemies with a whole heart, and if a man smites you on one cheek, smash him on the other. Do you believe in this?
Yes, very much so. I think everyone does, except they cloak it in forms of false altruism or false morality. They feel that there's so much repressed aggression and repressed hostility that is never allowed to manifest itself because of teachings such as turn the other cheek, that it has made man an intrinsically vicious creature because he's bottled up all of these feelings, or he channels them into what would appear to be innocuous directions that are actually much more harmful to those who are around him.
Don't you think, or like some of your critics say, that Satanism is an excuse for sexual and orgiastic excesses of some of the people who would like to look after the animal instinct?
Yes, I fully agree that it is an excuse, but then I also agree that Christianity has been an excuse for many too, because there are many sects of Christianity that believe that in order to attain a spiritual quality or some sort of communion with God, one must be purged of any carnal desires, and the only way to rid oneself of carnal desires is to release them fully.
And then compare what Anton is saying to what these people are saying.
I love killing babies. I love it.
Jesus will. We have to give her the word.
I've had
We have
like
to give her the
45
word.
abortions and I'm going to keep having them.
We are God. We are God.
One thing I'll say to these people, especially to the woman who proudly talks about abortion, only a sick and evil person would ever say such a thing. Just look at this video and tell me again that killing babies are okay. And then, on to the other issue, which is transgenderism. What exactly does doing things like this to the children benefit? What exactly does it accomplish? Maybe I'm too old school or shallow-minded by their standards, but what exactly does doing things like this achieve, especially when you're doing this to your own children?
Desmond, you're one of the youngest and first drag queen/kids, and I've heard that you've gotten messages from young adults who look up to you for being who you are.
Or perhaps, why don't we listen to one of their own from Hollywood talking about the things that took place there?
I can tell you that the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia. That's the biggest problem for children in this industry.
The casting couch even applies to children.
Oh yeah. Not in the same way. It's all done under the radar.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh yeah. I was surrounded by them when I was 14 years old. Surrounded. Literally. Didn't even know it. It wasn't until I was old enough to realize what they were and what they wanted and what they were about and the types of people that were surrounding me till I went, oh my God, they were everywhere like vultures. You know, there's a lot of good people in this industry, but there's also a lot of really, really sick, corrupt people in this industry. And there are people in this industry who have gotten away with it for so long that they feel they're above the law.
So there was one video that I released previously where Father Reehil talked about the satanic practices in Hollywood. And there are a lot of people downvoting on the video, even saying many rude things towards Father Reehil, saying he's making things up. Well, I just shared 2 clips with all of you and tell me again, where did Father Reehil say anything wrong other than stating the facts?
Yeah. So we've got, Hollywood's always been under the control of Lucifer. Jesus himself said, the world is under the control of the devil. I mean, that was out of God's mouth. So it shouldn't surprise us that places that have particular power with messaging, with music, which goes right to the heart, music bypasses the brain, goes straight into the heart, good and bad, that would be, you know, something that he would want to control.
You can't make this stuff up anymore, right? The next conspiracy theory to go down the drain is Hollywood, the music industry, totally not into the satanic rituals, despite all of the symbolism, despite all of the coincidence with said symbolism. It never ends. Maybe it's art, but why is it always this kind of art? Why is it never like regular art? Then they say, no, we're not doing this, but we're going to keep doing it, and we're going to keep jamming it down your throats, and we're going to keep pretending it's not a thing. And despite like just symbolism and symbolism and symbolism upon symbolism, it never seems to end. And I'm sure there's nothing to it, folks. And if you don't think this is part of the indoctrination process of our kids, you ain't been watching much at all.
But what happens when the same actor talks about in The View? I'm not sure if you guys remember this interview, but I'll share the clip here with you. And of course, Father Reehil is not happy with The View, which he calls it The View from Hell. I'll share the clip with you here later on as well.
I'm saying that there are people that were the people that did this to both me and Corey that are still working, they're still out there, and they're some of the richest, most powerful people in this business.
And they are
And they do not want me saying what I'm saying right now.
Are you saying that they're pedophiles?
Yes.
And that they're still in this business?
Yes.
That's what, and that's what you were saying in your book. When you talk to, when you talk to
And they don't want
parents,
me here right now. Trust
Corey,
me. They want me dead.
there are a lot of parents out here who want to put their kids in this business. Their kids are cute, they're great actors, What would you say to a parent who just has the best of intentions who's coming here with their child? If you're saying that there's a lot of predators in this industry.
It's a many-feathered bird. Okay? Be careful what you wish for. That's what I'll tell you. You know, don't go into it with naivety. Don't go into it thinking that it's all roses and sunglasses and
You're damaging an entire industry.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to say that it's a very important, serious topic.
And here's the part about what Father Reehil thinks of The View.
The View, that show really, The View is part of the word. The title should be called The View from Hell. The View from Hell. That's what the show should be called. There are two Catholics on the panel, by the way, that I know of. Joy Behar, who I have dubbed Sorrow Behar. She's the furthest thing from joy I've ever seen. And Sunny Hostin, also not so sunny, often sourpussed. Many of these people, the Hollywood elite, they will scorn you if you dare put on a fur coat. They will chastise you for eating hamburgers because, of course, the meat is now a problem to the environment. But they'll kill a baby. No problem with killing a baby. But don't you dare buy a fur coat, and don't you dare eat a steak and a hamburger because you're hurting the environment. It's so upside down.
I realize that with the growth of this channel, thanks to your generous support, it also comes with responsibility to send out the right messages out there. And one of the things that I always believe in, and something that I hold dear to my heart, is the safety of our kids, which is why sometimes you see me include little clips of children at the start or end of the videos here. If you don't think it's a serious problem by now, why don't you listen to this undercover video on the staff of a very famous adult site?
There was a study that was I think it was 11 years old is the average age kids are now viewing. What do you think about that?
I mean, sounds like my age. I also did so.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely associated with puberty.
Right. Like it's natural.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, is that a lot of those religious groups will tell you it's not. And that's wrong.
Do you think that kids go on like that?
Do I think they go on there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they still go on there for sure.
All you have to do is probably check a box or something to...
I think so, yeah. I probably just ask you, are you 18 years old, yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they've done too much on that. It's got some educational aspects to it, so there's that.
There's so many...
I mean, especially with boys.
And then there's an update I'd like to share with you. I've reached out to Father Francis for an interview, and the progress has been really positive so far. I've submitted my list of questions to him, which he will go through, so hopefully it's going to go ahead because I know there are so many things we can all benefit from listening to him. Of course, some of the questions that were submitted will be focusing on spiritual warfare, exorcisms, etc., but the other half of the questions will also be on his field of expertise, which I hope to share with all of you soon. Anyway, this clip is of him from The Exorcist Returns. There's a link to the video in the description box below if you'd like to watch the whole thing.
That there are, in fact, cases of people who are disturbed by an immaterial reality that has a distinct will. Exorcism, in a way, is the Christian life writ large. So what happens is the person comes to see you, and very often nothing happens at first. But as you begin speaking with them and saying, what's going on, how have you been, and so on and so forth, a light trance begins to manifest. The person is not really there. All right, eyes roll back in their head, or they may start to faint. They may slide off the chair onto the ground. Various things like that start to happen. Limbs get rigid and so on. Then I would begin to pray the rite of exorcism, usually using the Italian. If you have a real case of possession, the person is now in serious trance and probably getting violent. So you just continue with the prayers. And then if the demon begins to speak, if you're getting locutions, so that the person in trance is now saying things, like making accusations, insulting people, claiming to be more powerful than the exorcist, making fun of the exorcist, then the exorcist might use a prayer that addresses itself directly to the demonic presence and command silence and so forth. And there are prayers for commanding the demon. Sometimes this goes on 3 hours or even 5 hours of prayer. So that's the way it usually goes, and then at a certain point there's kind of a break, and the demonic force lets go. The trance ends, the person comes out of trance and manifests real peace and serenity. Real trance in these cases shows up in the fact that the person's voice, though they may have been screaming and hollering for a couple of hours at the exorcist, is normal. There's no distortion of the voice. The muscles, although maybe if you weren't careful, they scratched themselves or they bit somebody or something happened, that person is in perfectly good physical condition after these hours of strenuous and really Olympic wrestling kind of situation there. I mean, amazing, pretty amazing stuff. So when you see that, you know that something very unusual is going on.
And there's something that Father Daniel Reehil said before during an interview that's quite interesting, and I'd just like to know what you think about what he's saying here.
This is what the Protestants have learned and really are well equipped at doing it. They treat everybody in their parish like it's family. They go on picnics together. They see each other throughout the week. It's not just on Sunday. And that's why I'll have somebody come over who's got a demonic problem and they send them to me. The Catholic Church delivers the person and liberates them, and they're free. And they go back to their parish. And I say, why are you going back there? You just saw the Catholic Church did this for you here. And they said, no, it's my family and it's my friends. How could I leave them? Because that's that tight bond. And it's so strong that they won't leave.
We've just released a very short video or slides of images, sharing with all of you what the devil and his demons are doing out in the world today. Some of you commented that I should not have included some of the images in that video, and for that I'm truly sorry, but I just thought that by sharing those images, and they're not just included there for illustration, but to show all of you what's really happening on the ground. Anyway, my point is, if somehow you feel gloomy or scared, etc. after watching that video, let me share you this clip of Father Daniel Reehil.
For people that are afraid during these days, I want to let you know that when sin abounds, grace superabounds, and this is the hope. You were born in this generation. God chose you to be here right now in this time. He knew what was going to happen, and he said, this is the person I want here for this. And I'm going to equip them to be a saint in this time, if you want it. And in these dark times, there's so much grace available, you can be formed very quickly. It's like if you put your hand up and say, choose me, I want to be a saint. This big funnel in heaven comes over you and whoosh. And if you're just obedient to responding to the grace and just take the next right step every day towards getting closer to Jesus, you will be a saint. And it's kind of like today we had the calling of the 12. These guys were so ordinary. As Father Benedict Rochelle used to say, they're a bunch of sweaty fishermen. And look at them. They become the apostles, these great shining deacons. And they suffered. But they had the faith and the grace to move through it. And look what happened. The same thing. Look at any saint. Look at little Francisco Borgione becomes the great Padre Pio. Or Saul, who's basically a terrorist killing Christians, becomes the great evangelist St. Paul. Like, it was the faith that moved them and the grace that changed them. And it's available to everybody who's alive.
Well then, that will be all for the video this time. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. And hopefully all of you have learned a lot from this video. Just remember that if you have any suggestions or feedback, please let us know in the comments below. Anyway, if you like what we do and you'd like to support us, I left a link to our PayPal donation in the description box below, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your continuous support, contributions, and prayers. And until the next one, thanks again for watching, and may God bless you.